My name is Olivia Mae Carter. I am 39 years old, a mother of 2 beautiful boys, and I live in a small town outside of Jackson, Mississippi. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be sitting here, trembling as I record this, trying to find words for something I barely understand, I would have laughed. Or maybe rolled my eyes, the way I used to when people spoke about the afterlife. But that was before March 17, 2024. It was a Sunday. The sun had already started to rise by the time I opened my eyes, but my body felt unusually heavy. Something felt wrong, not in a dramatic way, but quietly off. It was my late husband's birthday, and I had barely slept the night before. He died in a car accident 3 years ago, and every year since then, this date brought a wave of silent grief. But this year, something was different. I remember walking into the kitchen to pour my coffee. I remember the smell of cinnamon toast. And then, darkness. My next memory is not even a memory. It is a fracture. A gap in time that haunts me not because of what I forgot, but because of what I remembered on the other side of death. I died. My heart stopped for 15 minutes. The doctors said it was a cardiac arrest triggered by stress and an undetected condition. But medical explanations cannot capture what I saw, what I heard, what I felt when I was no longer in my body. This is not a story of hellfire. This is not even a story of heaven, not in the way we talk about it in church. It is a story of presence. A story of voices. A story of mercy. And above all, it is the story of one question that shattered everything I thought I believed. Can the dead hear the living? Because during those 15 minutes, I heard someone call my name, someone alive, weeping for me. And I answered. Before I dive deeper into this experience, I want to take a moment to thank each one of you who's been a part of this community. Whether you've been with us for a while or just stumbled across this story today, I want you to know that I feel your presence. It was your words of encouragement and the support of people like you that carried me through the hardest moments of my life. I know it sounds strange to say, but even when I was lying unconscious on that hospital bed, I felt your prayers, your thoughts, your love. This isn't just my story. It's our story. We are all connected in ways we don't even realize. And as I share this testimony, I'm not only telling you what I saw, I'm inviting you to see what I saw, to experience what I experienced, and to reflect on what it means for all of us. Thank you for being here. Now, let's walk through this together. Before that Sunday morning, my life looked normal on the outside. I had a routine. I was the kind of person who always had the laundry folded before bed and never left dishes in the sink overnight. My co-workers would have called me dependable. My neighbors thought I was sweet. My boys thought I was strong. And for the most part, I believed all of it too. But beneath the surface, I was breaking. I grew up in the church. My mother led Sunday school, and my father was the head usher. I knew all the right words. I could recite the Psalms without blinking. But when my husband died in 2021, something in me shifted. He was only 42, driving home from work when a drunk driver hit him. Gone, just like that. No goodbyes. No time to prepare. Just a police officer at my door with a face too pale and eyes too soft. In the weeks that followed, I kept going through the motions. I smiled. I cooked. I went to church. But the faith I had clung to for years, it cracked. Not in a loud, explosive way. No. The crack was quiet, slow, like ice breaking beneath your feet. I stopped praying. I stopped singing during worship. And eventually, I stopped believing that God cared about me. I never said it out loud, but I started thinking. Maybe he only listens to some people. Maybe I'm not one of them. By the time 2024 rolled around, I had become what you'd call a lukewarm Christian. I still showed up at church when it was convenient. I still posted Bible verses on Facebook. But inside, I was empty, just a shell of someone who used to believe. To cope with the pain, I threw myself into work. I stayed busy. Always busy. If I was not organizing something for my kids, I was working overtime at the hospital's admin office or scrolling endlessly through social media at night until my eyes burned. I did everything except sit still. Because when I was still, the questions came. The grief came. And with them, the bitterness. I never stopped believing in God completely. But I started thinking of him as distant. Silent. Watching from some far-off throne while people like me fell apart. I doubted the afterlife. I told myself heaven was just a comfort story for people who could not deal with loss. I told myself the dead were gone, silent forever, unable to hear our tears or feel our love. I told myself this world was all there was. And yet, on the morning of March 17, 2024, all of that was about to change. Because when my heart stopped, and the silence came, I realized something terrifying and beautiful. Death is not silence. It is sound. It is memory. It is presence. And the ones we think are gone, sometimes, they are still listening. It started with a whisper in my chest. Not a voice. Not a word. Just a strange flutter. Like my heartbeat had forgotten how to count properly. I remember reaching for the edge of the kitchen counter, suddenly lightheaded. The mug of coffee I had just poured slipped from my hand and shattered across the tiled floor. Then, darkness. But it was not the kind of darkness that comes when you close your eyes. No. This was deeper. This was a swallowing blackness, like being pulled into the center of a vast, empty ocean. I could not feel my body. I could not scream. I could not breathe. Yet somehow, I still existed. I was aware. The silence was unbearable. It rang in my ears like a scream that had nowhere to go. Then came the sound. Not voices at first. Wind. Violent, rushing wind. It roared past me, as if the universe was spinning too fast to hold still. Then came a high-pitched ringing, sharp and endless. I tried to move, but I had no limbs. No weight. Just the sense of being suspended. Floating. That was when the visions began. I saw my kitchen, but I was not inside my body. I hovered above it, saw myself crumpled on the floor, my hand twitching slightly, my face pale and frozen. I watched as my youngest son, Elijah, ran into the room and screamed my name. I watched as he called his older brother, and then the phone, and then the paramedics. I saw it all from above, like a camera with no voice. I wanted to shout, "I'm here. I'm right here." But nothing came out. And then, I was pulled. Not lifted, dragged. Like an invisible force had gripped the center of my being and yanked me downward through a tunnel of shadows. The temperature changed. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of smoke and something rotting. I could hear voices now. But not human ones. Echoes. Screams. Prayers. Songs. All tangled together in a chaos I could not understand. And in the midst of that confusion, I felt one thing more than any other, regret. A wave of sorrow crashed over me, not just for what I had done, but for what I had not done. For the prayers I stopped praying. For the forgiveness I never gave. For the love I withheld from people who needed it most. Tears flowed not from my eyes, because I had no face, no skin, but from the center of my soul. I was grieving myself. And then came the voice. Faint. Familiar. "Mom, please come back. Please don't leave me." It was Elijah. My son. His voice cut through the shadows like a knife. And suddenly, I was surrounded by memories. The way his hand used to grip mine at night when he was scared of thunderstorms. The way he cried when I first dropped him off at school. The sound of his laugh. In that moment, I realized something. The dead can hear the living. Not always. Not forever. But in those thin, fragile seconds between life and eternity, when the soul is drifting and not yet claimed, we can hear the ones who love us. And I heard him. I heard my son begging me to live. And for the first time since my husband died, I wanted to. I was still floating, or perhaps suspended, in a place that had no time. No beginning. No end. Only presence. The wind had faded. The shadows were still. But what came next was not light. It was sound. Soft at first, like echoes underwater, I heard my name being called. Not once. But over and over again. Each time, the voice sounded different. Some were desperate. Others were trembling. One was filled with so much grief that I thought my soul would crack in two. "Mom, please. Don't go. Elijah," I whispered. Or thought I did. I turned toward the sound, not with a body, but with intent. And then, like fog lifting off a lake, I began to see. I saw my living room, but not as it was. It was more symbolic. The furniture was faded. The walls were hazy. But what was sharp, piercingly clear were the people inside. My sons. My sister. My childhood friend, Yanel. They were all gathered around, praying, crying, pacing, whispering my name through tears. And somehow, their emotions reached me like waves, not just the words, but the weight behind them. I felt Elijah's fear. The helplessness of a 12-year-old begging heaven to bring his mother back. I felt Micah's guilt, the pain of a teenager thinking he should have done something more. I felt Yanel's whisper, not out loud, but from her soul. She was not praying with words. She was remembering. Telling me silently about our childhood summers. About the day I held her when she miscarried. She was calling me back, through memory. And I heard it. I heard everything. The living, they think we are gone when we leave our bodies. But in that strange veil between this world and whatever comes next, we are listening. We are still connected. But it was not just my family I heard. There were other voices too. People I did not recognize. People in grief, standing beside other bodies somewhere else in the world, speaking into hospital rooms, whispering through tears, hoping someone would hear. And for a fleeting moment, I could hear them all. Hundreds. Thousands. A web of pain and love and longing suspended between the physical and the eternal. I understood then, love has sound. Grief has frequency. And when it's pure, it travels. The cries of the living reached the edge of this in-between world and echoed there like ancient bells. I began to be drawn back, not because of choice, not because of command, but because of connection. Because of love. It was not a being of light that pulled me back. It was the gravity of relationship. The ache of those I left behind. The way their souls refused to let go. And just before my eyes opened again, I heard one final whisper, my late husband's voice. Soft. Gentle. From beyond the veil. Not yet, Liv. You still have something to do. Then, the rush of air. The shock of cold. The beeping machines. The hospital ceiling. I was back. When I opened my eyes in that hospital room, it was like waking up in a house I had lived in my entire life, only now I could see all the cracks in the walls, the stains on the ceiling, the quiet hum of a world I never paid attention to. Everything looked the same, the nurses in scrubs, the dull flickering light above me, the concerned faces of my family leaning in. But nothing felt the same. I had returned to the same body, the same room, the same life, but my spirit was different. I could still feel the presence of the space I came from. Still hear the echoes. Still sense the thinness of the veil between here and there. 4 days, I could barely speak. Not because my body was weak, but because language suddenly felt insufficient. How do you explain hearing love? How do you describe seeing sorrow wrapped in color and memory? But I tried. I started with my boys. I told Elijah I heard him call me. I told Micah his tears reached me, and I meant it. We cried together, all 3 of us, as I held their faces and promised them that what we say, what we feel, what we speak in grief, matters. Then I changed the way I lived. I stopped rushing. I started listening. I began writing again, not stories, but letters. To people I had not spoken to in years. To my late husband. To myself. I began to pray again, not to perform or beg, but to connect. Because now I understand, prayer is not a ritual, it is a resonance. I also stopped fearing death. Not because I know what comes next in full. But because I know that no goodbye is truly final. If you have lost someone, I want you to know this, they heard you. Maybe not in the way you expect. Maybe not with ears, but with soul. In that space between life and eternity, I felt the power of your words, your love, your grief. It echoes louder than anything we can explain. So do not hold back your goodbyes. Do not regret the things you whispered in hospital rooms or said in tears after funerals. They matter. They reached us. And if you are alive and watching this now, let this be your reminder. Say what needs to be said. Today. While it still matters on both sides. Love echoes. Choose your echoes wisely. What do you believe happens when we die? Do you believe the dead can hear the living? If you have ever whispered into the silence to a mother, a friend, a spouse, a child who is no longer here, I want to hear your story. Did you feel them? Did you dream of them? Did something shift when you spoke? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let this be a space where stories find each other and grief becomes a bridge, not a wall. Thank you for listening to mine. Thank you for walking this fragile, holy path with me. Until next time, speak with love. Because someone, somewhere, may still be listening.